Recording. Okay, so what was your question?
I guess for those of us that didn't hear our names, you knew us.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't call everybody's name.
Okay.
Yeah, if I called a name and it didn't seem to be here, then yeah. So yeah, if you didn't hear your name, that doesn't mean I didn't count you as here. I feel like yeah. So okay, I updated. Let me go ahead and say it on camera. I updated Blackboard's syllabus to reflect the changes we made last time. So no information group project. I've now on Blackboard on the left where it used to say group project right underneath. It used to say assignments and then in parentheses information literacy group project. That has now been shifted to the bottom of that stack of things, and it says quarantined assignment information literacy group project quarantined. So it's like, stay away. Because I didn't want to just put completely irrelevant, because there's still those two forms that if you didn't complete, you could still complete them. The personal schedule group formation. And I got to go remember to change the dates on the assignments, or say I'm just going to make them unavailable. That way they never show up for you, the other ones. I may even do the same with the main assignment, but that should be in place, Michael.
I was going to tell you that it was updated because I got on it last night and it didn't show the group activity.
It didn't show them at all?
It didn't show the groups. Now, like even at the beginning, where it had the big paragraph, none of the blue, I think the pink was in there, none of the pink.
Oh yeah, the calendar I changed.
Yeah.
The calendar I was able to successfully change. It was just a text edit, but for some reason it wouldn't let me link those files on the top link where it says syllabus in that little box. Yeah, so you may have been able to see the calendar changes, but you weren't able to see like the whole syllabus until this morning. Today I'm assigning the cause-effect essay. People probably want to know more about that and probably know first, so you can start thinking about it, and then it'll give you a way to contextualize everything else we talk about. So I'll probably just start with that, and then we'll move on and continue where we left off last time, because it'll make more sense, I think, once we've talked about the topics, the stuff we were talking about, and where we stopped last time, which was effective support. It'll make more sense, I think, in the context of cause-effect. So I'll assign that first. It should have become available right when class started. I don't know. Do y'all get announcements for those sorts of things? Like blah, blah, blah assignment just became available. So did it tell y'all?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, but not always. I don't have announcements set up like some maybe online teachers do. So you're not always going to, like I'm not going to have like anything in an announcements section. I figured out it's just more confusing than it is unconfusing, because I generally will only use the announcements to announce things that are bad. Like Nichols is going to not have class. Well, I mean, y'all might not think of that as bad, but if I had to cancel class, I might announce it through an announcement and send an email and all kinds of stuff. But I've just noticed that sometimes semester after semester, when you say let's just move all the dates forward, it moves all the dates for the announcements too. So that what happens is it tells you like there's a really bad one year. I had like on like October something. It said don't forget class canceled. I was like, what? No, it's not. And I had sent another announcement, like a counter announcement, because it says, remember, we all talked about how Nichols has jury duty. I was like, no jury duty. We didn't talk about it. Granted, I still had like 4 people go, but I got the announcement. And I was like, and you got the email like 3 seconds later? Nah. How were you notified of the other announcement? Yeah. It was a lot of people who'd already been absent like 3 and 4 times anyway. So, yeah. So let's see. Instead of starting here, and really it would be for us this slide.
I can't see anything.
This slide. That makes sense. I'll go ahead and plug up to the internet because I'm sure I'll need it at some point. I'll probably just take for granted that I have it at some point, and then when I don't have the internet, it's going to be. Let's see. So instead of starting here, we'll go over to Blackboard. Let's see, which one of these is Magnus Baraka? Is it this one? Yeah. He's not logged in anymore, so. 1301. If you don't know how to use Blackboard by now, you haven't been watching. What now?
Do you know anything about the Blackboard app?
I know it once existed. I don't even know. Does it still
It
exist?
doesn't work.
It doesn't work for PJC. I downloaded it last night and tried it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you ever had like a thing where like they make an app for something, but it's just kind of an excuse to have one.
Like you can make,
That's how the Blackboard app works to me.
you can make a profile online, but if you download the app, like it says online, it
won't find Paris.
Yeah.
It won't find the college.
Yeah.
it won't find Paris, but if you make the profile, it'll find Paris.
Doesn't make any sense. I tried to use it a couple years ago, and I realized it didn't do anything. Like basically, all it can do is notify you of when things happen in class, which email already does. So I really don't understand like what the point is. Huh?
Can I put my computer out?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, some teachers don't like them out. Some.
No, you can use them every day in my class as long as you're sticking to what we're doing up here, and not like working on my math lab homework or something. Because people will be like, "Damn it, I could be doing my math lab homework." And they'll be pissed at you, and then they won't be able to pay concentration to what we're doing. So, and everybody, if she becomes distracting, make sure and send me an email.
I'm distracted.
Okay.
I'm distracted.
At cnichols@parisjc.edu. So, there are different cause-effect assignments you can pick from on this one. You have a lot more options to choose from, but because it's not narrative, you can't relate it to anything. You don't have like a personal experience that you can choose on that's just yours. You have to kind of go off the knowledge that you have on one of these topics. Apologize. I'm sorry you're out of battery. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It happens. So, scroll up slightly. So sign today, week 3, day 2. It's going to be due week 5, day 2, so 2 weeks from today. And most of our papers are due about 2 weeks after I assign them, with the exception being the research paper, which is due about 4 weeks after I assign it. And then after that, we have no papers, so it's not so bad. So the assignments are, really there's 3 different assignments. I'll read the main assignment first, then I'll go back and read the special topics within it. The first topic is how do you account for the popularity of one of the following? Write an essay considering remote as well as immediate causes for the success of the phenomenon you chose amongst those choices. Then there's what do you see as the major cause of any one of these problems? Based on your identification of its cause, formulate some specific solutions for the problem you select. And then there's write an essay considering the likely effects of a severe protracted shortage of one of the following commodities. You may consider a community, city, or statewide shortage or a nation or worldwide crisis. Now the choices within each one of these topics I'll go through now in more detail. So question already? Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry. So all of that is on Blackboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I don't want to.
Yeah, because I just clicked here from Blackboard. So like I'm in, it literally just this became available at 9:30 a.m. this morning. This was not here before that.
I've got to be more, I got to get in the habit of checking my email and doing things because when I was in school, we didn't do anything on computer.
Yeah, it's really weird too to have, you never go to your house and the oven doesn't show up until it's time to cook.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, that'd be great, right? But that's how kind of the internet gets to work. Things can sometimes only be there when they're needed and then they can go away.
Yeah.
It's one of the great things about the internet, but damn, it's confusing. it's just, why does I just looked and it's not, but now it's there, because I made it so that people won't look ahead of time, get their own opinions before I've talked about it. That's how I've designed it. So let's go back to this. So on the how do you account for the popularity of one of the following? The options you have are basically explaining to me why it's popular. Twitch, it's pretty popular right now. I actually changed most of my options from before because everybody sucked at writing about them. So Twitch, y'all heard of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are also some people who just stream their life. So there's that too.
Yeah.
You ever heard of Let's Play videos on YouTube?
Yes.
It's like that, but there's a whole website for it.
Oh.
I'll be right about that.
Superhero films. Those are very, very popular, at least in the last 20 years. I mean, they used to be just a goofball thing. You're like, oh, I went and saw a superhero film. Like I went and saw Batman and Robin. What a terrible, terrible movie.
Yeah.
Oh my
Then
God.
Dark Knight happened, then the Marvel Universe, and now all of a sudden, like it's not only popular but they're good. And
Yeah,
what caused that? Cosmetic surgery. People are getting more and more of it. Not just here, everywhere. Hip hop. That originally that's in the textbook as one of the options. And it just seems to get more and more popular. I've yet to see it go down in popularity. Did anybody happen to see? It was phenomenal. I know this doesn't seem to relate to hip hop, but country. I almost said country music television. CMT. A couple of years ago had like the CMT Awards, and they had what's that guy who sings Tennessee Whiskey? Chris Stapleton. He sings. And the crazy, I don't even listen to country, but I love that guy, Chris Stapleton. So he gets that, like he wins an award, and so they got him on stage, and they bring up Justin Timberlake, right? Justin Timberlake is not true. I mean, he's not true hip hop. I mean, he's a pop guy, but still, you would think people are like in their music genres, right? Well, Justin Timberlake gets on stage. I'm talking every woman in the audience went crazy, and I think a lot of the dudes were like, who's this? Like, it's like a lot of I was just like shocked at how many people were like cheering for Justin Timberlake and Chris Stapleton at the same time. I mean, there's a lot of people who jump across genres, but some people stick to theirs. And my wife's one of those where she'll listen to country, rap, hip hop, pop. She listens to just about everything, musical stuff. But hip hop has just only gotten more and more popular, and it seems like nobody's making fun of it. Well, I mean, the people are making fun of the people who are singing the hip hop. It's always, people always make fun of celebrities, but it's interesting. Video games. Why are video games so popular in all forms? Not just one particular. Don't just say only PC games or only. So have all video games, which is a pretty broad scope. Homeschooling. It seems to only be getting more and more popular these days. Why? Why is that happening? As opposed to public school or even private school. Online garage sale groups, those are growing in popularity.
That's lazy.
To the point that some cities have added designated meeting places in the town, like that are watched by the cops and on camera for people to exchange goods. Usually they're on Facebook, but maybe people don't use Facebook anymore. That's why you didn't know about it. Facebook still exists. Fitness trackers, that's things like Fitbits, or I would say you can count the Apple Watch in that, but don't say like, well, fitness trackers also can browse the internet. Well, that's not always true. Just think about things that track your fitness. LinkedIn, have y'all even heard of that? It's like, it's not a social media, it's like a work networking media. I actually get requests all the time from students who go into a career and they're like, what's your LinkedIn? And they're like, what? And so, A&M Commerce, my wife tells me, because she's the advisor, she's the senior academic advisor in the College of Humanities, Social Sciences, and Arts. So if you're majoring in English, art, no, I think if you specifically, you'll see her if you're majoring in English, history, I know criminal justice. If those are your majors and you go to A&M Commerce, you'll meet her. But yeah, she's way better at her job than I am at mine. Although I did post some of these topics to her this morning, and I was like, you can't do what I do, but I can't do what she does either. But she was always like, I don't want to teach. And I was like, I don't blame you. But I love it. So yeah, it's a lot of work. So is her job, but she's done at 5. I'm not. You know that? I take it all home. She's like, can we go out this weekend? Grading all weekend. Nope. But be with your family. I have to do the good of the people. Or good for the people. But anyways, LinkedIn, she tells me like A&M Commerce, they're essentially required, I think in their first class they take their learning frameworks, they're required to get a LinkedIn page started. Because it's like a job networking website. It's essentially an online resume that you constantly update, and every time that you go to school or like you involved in something, you put it on there, and then it gets linked with like your career and stuff. And a lot of times when you apply for a job, they'll ask for your LinkedIn profile. So if you've heard of it, it might be good to do, and you know what it is. If not, might not pick that one. Because if you did pick it and you didn't know about it, you'd have to do research, which means you'd have to add APA references page and that kind of stuff. And reality TV. That's gotten, seems like, only bigger and bigger. My wife can't stop watching reality television. I mean, there's it used to just be Big Brother, and then she also introduced me to Survivor, so it's Big Brother and Survivor. Now I just don't even have time for Survivor, it's just Big Brother. But she still watches Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, Bachelorette, Teen Moms, 16 and Pregnant, Teen Mom OG, Master Chef,
I like that one.
Hot. What's the other one? It's the same thing. It's Gordon Ramsay cooking Hell's Kitchen. There you go. Hot Kitchen. But it's like he's like Simon, to where like Simon on America's Got Talent, where you feel like when he says something nice to you, it means that much more. You know, because he's so mean to most people, but it's like, you're good. And you're like, oh,
Well, he restaurants too, and like he pays those people a lot of money to cook. So like, if I was doing that, I'd be kind of a bitch.
but I mean,
Yeah, if you're gonna mess it up, I wouldn't.
but that has become more popular, watching people cook and like compete, than having a movie about a chef. So I mean, granted, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So why has that become popular? So this is about how do you account for the popularity of one of these following, and we'll get to what these mean, but remote as well as immediate causes. So all kinds of different causes as to why these things might be popular, and you only pick one. So don't be like, well, I'm going to pick one paragraph for Twitch, one for cosmetic. That's not what I want. I want all on Twitch, or all on LinkedIn, or all on video games. By the way, in a video game paper, do not give me the history of video games. That is what everybody does. I'm like, why is it popular? Well, the first game was made in 1982. And I'm like, that's not it all answering my question.
You just wonder why it's popular.
That's like if I said, why is this kid the most popular one in school? Well, you see, he was born in 1983. And it's like, well, that doesn't explain anything. And you say he's rich and he has big parties, though. That answers the question. Now, what do you see as the major cause of any one of these problems? So you have to assume that it's a problem first. And so I tried to pick things that people, regardless of political beliefs, could agree are problems, which is hard, by the way, very hard. Binge drinking among college students. So you see college students binge drinking. That's pretty bad. I mean, you shouldn't be at that age, right? Or any age, really, but especially for some reason we regard young people drinking as worse. You're like, he's old. But young people, you're like, that's terrible. Question?
No,
You just pick one. You pick 1, 2, or 3, and then one topic within 1, 2, or 3.
What? Okay.
So look, on number 1 you have Twitch, superhero films, cosmetic surgery, hip hop, video games, homeschooling, online garage sale groups, fitness tracker, LinkedIn, or reality. So you have 10 options within option 1 if you pick option 1.
Okay.
So you have basically like
so you pick
almost,
one, 2, or 3,
and then you pick a thing in 1, 2, or 3. Right. So it's almost like you have 25 different options for a paper.
Gotcha.
Is essentially how it works.
Sorry.
Then, no. It can look, especially looking at it just like the way it is, it looks really overwhelming. I should just put, I can't change the PDF, but I should pick 1 and then 1 within 1, because that would be more accurate. Because otherwise it's like, I'm picking this one, then all of this.
Yeah, because I was thinking we were doing 3, and then I pick 1 from each one.
Right, yeah, you don't have to do nearly that much. So, major cause of binge drinking among college students or academic cheating. I mean, I think no matter who you are, conservative, liberal, apolitical, that's a thing? I don't know. Actually, according to your info sheets, apolitical is a thing. Hate politics. So what's the biggest problem in the world? Politics. And I was like, a lot of people put that. What in politics? I don't know. I don't follow politics. So academic cheating, that's kind of, a lot of people think that, lots and lots of people cheating. Granted, it's not near a problem that it is in China. Y'all are aware of how big it is in China? They regard it as not even a problem. Communities are like, if we can cheat, we can. But the state is like, no, that's not good. There are like entire industries built around like getting kids into college by them writing the essays for the students. It's crazy. School shootings, I think we all, no matter who we are, regard that as a problem, despite what we might think is the cause. Voter apathy, so people not going out and voting and not caring to vote and saying things like, I don't follow politics and politics is stupid. I'm sure that is a contributing factor, but voters not wanting to vote, what's the major cause of that? Civil asset forfeiture, you ever heard of that? This is the most terrifying thing you never knew existed. Okay, I'm about to tell you. You're gonna be like, this happens? Yes, it does. So I'm gonna stand up for a second. Listen how scary this is. Let's say that you don't trust the banks. Anybody out there don't trust banks? You're like, I really don't trust banks. So you keep all of your, as scary as it is, you're a red-blooded American and you keep a gun, right? You've got a gun because if you're gonna use a bank, you gotta have, assets. Maybe you've got a lot of cash on hand. Maybe you got a safe. And you're like, you know what? I'm gonna get a new house. I've saved up enough. I got enough cash to put the down payment down. I mean, I really don't want to get a bank loan for a house, but if I got to get a loan for something, I'm going to do it for a house because, I got to have a bigger place to live, and the wife wants it. So I got my gun at home. I can't really take my gun with me because I have my concealed handgun, so I got that. I got my big old, wad of $20,000 worth of cash. That's a very small down payment, by the way. So let's say $40,000. Let's say you got $40,000 in cash you're going to take with you. You're on the way there, get stopped by a cop for something. I don't know. You forgot to put your blinker on. Cop seems like he's like, what's that bag? And you're like, oh, it's just, I'm going to go make a down payment on the house. He's like, well, what do you got there? $40,000 in cash. Oh, this is very suspicious. This could be a drug deal. It's not. I'm just literally going to go to the bank, make the cash. You can see, do you have a receipt that shows you pulled it out of the bank? No, I don't have that. Because I keep all of my cash in my safe at home and I don't trust banks. But you're going to go to a bank to get a home. I understand. To get a home, though, you got to have a home loan. You can't really save up that much cash. It's not feasible. You can save up a little bit, but not all. You're trying to explain this to the cop. He's like, still sounds suspicious. I'm going to need to seize that money. Takes your $40,000.
Oh, no.
It goes to the police station.
No.
It then gets wrapped up in legal proceedings, and you have a month to acquire a lawyer to try to get your money back. It's very costly. It might cost you $5,000 to $10,000 to get it back. Generally, the amount of money is small enough that people don't proceed with the legal stuff because you end up spending as much as you lost. Like in the case where somebody's got $5,000 or $10,000 to go buy a car, you're just out that money. And where does that money go? Into the police fund.
Oh, no. No.
In cases where they seize your stuff, because they're like, this is weird. And this is true not just in cases where, let's say that somebody steals your stuff, it's gone, and you're like, let's say this is a real situation. Somebody I know, they steal your jewelry, and so you're like, my jewelry's been stolen, and they're like, we found it. It's going to go into the police evidence locker. You try to get it back. You go through all the channels. They're like, we lost it. Shortly thereafter, it's sold at auction. Guess where the money goes? Into the police fund. This is not a problem just in Texas. This is a problem everywhere. And the federal government has no laws regulating it. And police have started to use it as a way of funding underfunded police departments because we won't pay enough taxes to fund them. Blue lives matter, but we can't pay for them. I guess is the mantra. This is a terrifying idea that none of you knew existed until today. So one of the reasons I literally don't carry cash anymore. I won't carry more than a small amount of cash. In fact, I trust banks more because I don't want to have it taken from me by a cop.
I don't trust them that carry a card.
Huh?
I don't trust them that carry a card.
You don't trust something that you can't carry in a
No,
car?
I don't trust them, but I do carry. I have I just don't trust them.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a matter of what do you trust least, and in my case, I trust giant wads of cash now less than I trust banks. I used to not trust banks, but now I just don't trust people on the end of the phone who are asking for my account information. I'm like, I'll bring it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, we're just going to pay the payment online. No, I want computers to deal with everything because they don't have personalities or try to steal my information. People do. Yeah, if they ever ask for your account information on the phone, say, no, thank you, and find a way to do it manually. I don't even write my information on a piece of paper and send that in. No. So that's a terrifying thing, huh? So that's depressing thing of the day is you might be wandering around with something expensive and a cop says, this is suspicious. And now it's theirs.
That's a nice.
Welcome to America. Because we haven't fixed it yet. Once we fix it, then it's not America. But it's it's the biggest problem nobody's talking about because it's one of those things that randomly happens to random people over time and nobody realizes it's a huge issue that's affecting everybody. Because they can just label carrying lots of cash as suspicious, maybe drug related, and they never have to charge you with a crime to take it. Nobody in the country is having it. There's only a couple states, I think, that have developed laws against it, that have said you have to charge them with a crime, otherwise relinquish it immediately. But not very many. After 9/11, we kind of threw down a lot of the, we were like, oh, everything's scary. Do whatever you can to protect us. And one of the things they decided was,
Take everybody's money.
well, it's such a subtle thing, right? Like, what if this could be used in terrorist activities? And somebody goes, yeah, maybe. This jewelry that was stolen from somebody's house could be. And so it opened too many gates, though, I think. So somebody needs to do something about it. Anyways, vaccination demonizing, so people thinking that vaccines aren't helpful and even thinking that they're evil. I see it all the time. People saying, like, this has mercury in it. Mercury is a poison. Well, so is sodium. So is chloride. Chlorine. But sodium chloride is salt. Sodium explodes in water. Chlorine's a massive poison. But when you put them together, you make salt. So the fact that mercury is in vaccines does not make them harmful. Otherwise, sodium chloride would both poison you and cause you to explode, which would be strange. And then sex trafficking. So we know sex trafficking is a problem, and everyone thinks it's a problem. That thinks that here's that people are kidnapping people and then
Selling them?
essentially they're either selling them or they're using them in like a prostitute ring where the prostitutes don't make any money. They're just sort of slaves.
Yeah.
Terrible. So now, based on the formulation of the major cause, you've got the major cause, then you formulate some specific solutions to that problem. So this is one where you're not just talking about cause and effects, you're having to talk about solutions as well. And really don't even talk about effects. In fact, on this one, how do you account for the popularity considering remote and immediate causes? Do you talk about causes? According to what you see there?
Yeah.
Yeah, like what caused the popularity? Do we talk about the effects?
No.
No, I don't really see a need to. It doesn't ask for it. And on this one, do you talk about causes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the major cause.
Yeah, the major cause. So really you just need to talk about one.
Yeah.
And solution.
And then some solutions. Do you talk about effects? No, you don't even go over effects. You may use it as an intro strategy.
So you can talk about these.
You can mention effects in the introduction to say, like, binge drinking is a huge problem. It causes students to fail out of college every year and costs the nation millions of dollars annually in federal aid money or something like that. But you're not going to spend body paragraphs explaining what the effects are, because this topic precludes that it's a problem. It assumes it's a problem, so why would you spend a whole lot of time telling people why it's a problem?
Right.
That would be what the effects are. And then we have the last one, write an essay considering the likely effects of a severe, protracted shortage of one of the following commodities. And then you can consider it to be community, city, statewide, or nation or worldwide. People usually pick the nation or worldwide because it's more fun. There's more options there. And if it's just community-wide, sometimes people are like, but it's a small community, so it's very boring. Why do you think people don't pick this one?
What?
It's the one people generally get the best grade on, but why does nobody pick it?
Because you have to write about the effects of that. You
Nope.
actually use both. No?
Nope. Simpler.
Really?
Are you talking about number 2 or number 3?
Number 3.
Because I've already made up their mind after 1 and 2.
Let's just get rid of the problem right now that nobody's willing to admit.
It's too much work.
No.
I don't know.
Protracted. Prolonged in time or space. Continued. Extended forward or outward. People are like, protractors are those things from school that help with the angles. I think you use a pencil and made a half circle. All I did was make smiley face emojis with them, right? Because you could just turn it over upside down and trace the inside outline, then draw 2 circles and boom, smiley face, and so you don't have to actually do math. You can just draw smiley faces all day. But it also, protractor has another meaning, which not protractor, but protracted. It is prolonged in time or space. So it means the likely effects of a severe, very prolonged shortage of one of the following commodities. And I will warn you, you'll forget I've said that, and you'll not pick that because you're like, what does that word mean again? It's so weird. It happens every semester. that I get almost nobody writes on the easiest topic. So I actually got rid. Maybe they won't, because this semester I got rid of the easiest ones to write about. Likely effects of a severe protracted shortage of. It used to have clean water and gasoline. People always just pick that, but then guess what my essays turned into?
We would die.
Yeah, it basically turned into Mad Max. Mad Max the essay, where everybody's on motorcycles running each other down, and I was like, how? They're out of gas, but people playing guitars on a giant motorcycle. That movie makes no sense, but it's cool looking. It's like what?
It's like Fallout. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I thought we said that. That was silly.
Lasers after post-apocalyptic.
And we've never figured out how to use computers.
Yeah.
They got simple ones, but they never got past it. Let's see. So, severe protracted shortage of voter polling locations. So what would happen if all of a sudden there were no voter polling locations, like in a place or a nation? Like there was like one place to vote in a county. I mean, imagine like you're voting for president. And you're like, it's time to vote for president. Everybody go to the Hunt County Courthouse.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Nobody would probably vote.
Land and Weiner would be happy. That's about it. I'd be like, everybody get drunk while you wait. I don't care who I vote for. It doesn't even matter. I just love you guys. What was I doing here? Rental housing. So it's not something a lot of people think about, but like the ability to rent housing. Like if everything's just purchased housing and there's nothing to rent, what do you do? I mean, if y'all driven into like the Plano, Frisco, McKinney area,
Yeah.
you constantly see massive apartment complexes going up because people are moving in quick and they need someplace to stay. They don't want to buy a house immediately, so they've got to have an apartment. So you need rental housing. So what would be the effects of a huge shortage? Cell phones. I think this is probably going to be the one people now write about. What would happen if all of a sudden cell phones weren't a thing? Like I don't know. Like you don't think about the reason behind it. That's irrelevant. But imagine something happened like, we ran out of gold and we can't find gold anymore. Can't make cell phones without gold. Or like maybe we ran out of lithium, so we can't make lithium-ion batteries. Can't do it. So what would happen? What would the effects be of no cell phones? However it managed to happen.
Wouldn't that kind of go Mad Max too?
Huh? Not necessarily. I mean, it should have different effects. Vaccines. Like what happens if there's no vaccines? You can tell that I find vaccination to be a very important topic. The big ones when you're a kid, flu vaccines. I mean, I think that they're a good idea, but a lot of people think flu vaccines are going to protect you against all strains of the flu. It's really just, it's a projection they do. They try to protect you against the biggest strains that they predict will be out that year. So, I mean, they do the best they can with flu vaccine, but it's not like measles vaccines, which are absolutely necessary. Books. What happened? We just didn't have access to books. Like books just went away. They were like, well, we got Kindles, we got.
I mean, they're technically going away, withering away. Shortly push on something.
Actually, let's not even say let's say books. The idea of books, so long works that people read. Let's just say we didn't have access to those. I mean, you can interpret books however you want, I guess. If you want to say like whatever you think the idea of books is there. Net neutrality. So I mean, that's basically already gone. But the idea that there's a free and open internet and people can't charge you for a fast lane. I don't know if you know this, but right now, if Juice wants to, they can charge Netflix for the extra traffic that it uses, and then that cost can get transferred to you by Netflix. But Juice can blame that on Netflix. They'll say, nah, Netflix, they're ones jacking up the prices. That's not our problem. But they're just jacking up the price because Netflix uses about 75% of internet traffic. That's why they're saying that, and they feel like they should be the net neutrality is a free and open internet where people don't realize how that could hurt small businesses. It actually means that as a small business owner, you might have to pay a premium for your small business to have access to the internet later. Sorry, it's very very pro corporation, very anti small business. Education. What would happen if we just suddenly lost access to education? They didn't have it anymore. People stopped coming to school, so education was gone, and then people need education again, but they can't find it. So what would happen? Wild West. Family planning services. What if we just didn't have access to it? And that's sort of happened. People get confused and think that Planned Parenthood, even though the words Planned Parenthood, it says right there, Planning Parenthood. there was it was an interesting picture I saw the other day of a girl who posted, I made it to 18 without having to use Planned Parenthood for, like it said, it was something like, I made it to 18 thanks to Planned Parenthood without having a child. And they didn't, with no abortions either. Without getting pregnant, I think is what I don't remember the wording. But I was like, a lot of people forget that Planned Parenthood is not just an abortion, a place where you can ask about abortions, but I mean, they talk to you about, here's how sex works, and here's how you should plan a family, and it's not time yet, kid. They talk to them about, hey, don't do this. It's not a good idea. And instead of just, but a lot of people they hold the signs up outside and say, Planned Parenthood's bad, but it's literally you walk in there and they say, are you pregnant? No. Okay, don't be. There's a better time for this. Don't get married now. You're 16. It's stupid. Please. And so they have, that's why it's family planning services is what they really offer at Planned Parenthood. But they're closing them down around the country, so teen pregnancy rates are going back up. Mostly in the South. Interestingly. But that is the options of topics that you have. So pick whatever strikes your interest within there. And so here's what you're going to try to do within this. Have a clear thesis. So on this paper, you don't have to document any sources for this paper, use any references, or have a works cited page. You can just go off of your instincts with each one of these topics. However, I must caution you, if you so much as look at a website for some help on something, you now have to cite that website. Anything that you go out and look up and then start to use in your paper, you must use. And I know that's very difficult for us in the age of Google to be like, well, I don't know what civil asset forfeiture is. Let me just Google that real quick. Here's the Wikipedia page. You now would have to cite that because you didn't know that before you looked it up. Anything you look up and you would then have to include. There's certain things like common knowledge, like the date that Abraham Lincoln was born that you don't have to include. Like that's considered like part of history and you don't have to. But especially things like opinions on what caused something. What are the contributing factors? You would have had to have gotten that from somewhere if you looked it up. So sometimes it's just, I think, easiest not to look anything up for this paper and try to go off your own ability to think critically. Comparison contrast paper, you'll have to use sources anyway. If you want to get started and start using sources in this paper, you're totally welcome to, and treat it like it's a little mini research paper. But you don't have to. Just keep in mind, if you do use sources, you have to cite them. Must follow the APA style by using the APA section of your pocket style manual spiral bound book. Now, when I mean APA formatting, if you use sources, yes, you have to include an APA references page. Our papers are so short and our topics so distinct, I don't need you to do those other things like include an APA title page or a running header or an abstract. I mean, those are things that seem completely unnecessary to this topic, so I don't do it. It'll seem silly. If you did that for your narrative essay, hopefully you didn't. But if you did, I guess I'll chuckle before I grade it. I'll be like, you gave me an abstract of your narrative. That's funny. It's like only like 2 pages. Let me give you an abstract of this 2-page paper. Yes?
Like just the essay in general?
I don't need cover pages for any essays except I might do it just so you have some practice in it, the research paper. And that'll be the only one. Let's see. Format. So length is 750 words. This paper has to be written in third person, not first person. We don't realize how often we do this, but the moment you use the word I, we, us, you, our, ourselves, that makes it immediately a first person paper. And I'm going to dock you pretty hard for it.
You say you got the second person or third?
Imagine you're writing a paper about how there's a problem with voter apathy, right? You're talking about voter apathy is a huge problem in the United States, and you're being third person the whole time. United States needs to make sure that they take care of voters and make sure that they know that they can co-vote because, there's going to be nothing worse for us if we don't do that. Boom, first person paper. I said the word us. That puts me in the group. I'm part of it. You have to always speak in the third person. And if you naturally gravitate toward words like you, us, we, our, ourselves, at the end of the paper, do a Control F function on Microsoft Word. If you hit Control F, it'll find every instance of that word and just do a search for all the first person words. Things like, and if you want to search I, it's a little harder, but do I with a space. So I can take and right now in this document, like even the PDF, I can go, is there any instance of I with a space? Yep, my comment's down below, but not in the sample paper. So let's go back up at the top. Is there any we? Control F, we. Oh, yep, she screwed up. So she put we. Oh, yeah, that was before I made that requirement. So, so she, maybe I should change the paper. But she did it once, so that was one of the reasons I think that I only gave her a 95. I didn't give her a full 100 or anything on this paper. And then you would go us, Magnus, next, menus. That's not the same. That brings us to the question. This is the voter apathy guy down below. Yeah, so you can go back and check your papers for that. I don't think they knew about it or they would have done it. And go back and check and take those words out because I really, really do want it to be third person. I tend to catch when people are doing it fairly consistently. I might miss one or two, but don't rely on that. Let's see, scroll down. So you'll be great on your ability to identify causes and or effects depending on which topic you choose. So you're not just going to be required to do causes and effects. It depends on whether the topic asks for that thing. Follow an organizational style appropriate to this type of essay. Maintain interest and clarity through personal commentary and varying sentence structure. Contain a valid thesis. Carefully follow specific directions according to your choice of topic. And satisfy the length requirements. So with this paper, this is the biggest problem I have here, is your paper does not necessarily have to contain lengthy explanation of both causes and effects. Do what the assignment asks you to do. So if the assignment doesn't ask for causes, only effects, don't write about causes. Instead, write only about effects. That's the biggest issue that I have on this paper by far. Totally eclipses, usually for me, any accidental use of the first person. So I have a cheat sheet for each topic. What to include, and that's the second page here. Topic 1, which is how do you account for the popularity? Write an essay considering remote as well as immediate causes for the success of phenomenon you choose. It says pick one, so that's, I don't know, Twitch. What are the remote and immediate causes for its popularity? But no effects. But you can use that as an introduction strategy. Twitch has taken the world by storm in recent memory. People who are ordinary citizens suddenly becoming famous, blah, 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 blah. And that's a spoken introduction. Don't just copy my words down. That's good. That would probably be terrible if written down. Topic 2. What do you see as the major cause of any one of these problems based on your identification of the cause, formulate specific solutions? Notice no effects. I just want the major cause. You pick one, binge drinking. What's the one cause? I don't know. It's not, but let's just say the overwhelming deer population. If you think that that's the cause, say that's the cause, explain why it is, then spend the rest of the paper providing solutions to the problems. So here's how we fix this. Another way we can fix it. Here's another way we can fix it. That should make up the rest of the paper, right? Because it asks for one cause and then solutions. So I mean, if I've got time for one cause, then the rest of the paper should be solutions. I mean, that's the only way I can see it written. Otherwise, you're doing 3 paragraphs explaining to me why it's the cause, and then like 1 paragraph where a whole bunch of solutions are shoved together, and that doesn't work. Spend some time on solutions. I mean, it's talking about how it's a problem, and if it's a problem, your concentration should be on how to fix it. Then, likely effects of a severe protracted shortage of one of the following commodities, like voter polling locations. So what would happen? Don't give me any causes for what caused it, unless you use possible future causes as an introduction strategy. For example, who knows what the future may bring in terms of rental housing and whether or not we'll have it for the future. But what would happen if it, and don't ask a question. But it's interesting to think about what would happen if, rental housing suddenly disappeared. You're only going to talk about the effects. What would the effects be if we suddenly had no rental housing? Try to organize those too, not just give me one big giant list that where you're going, I guess I'll make a paragraph here, maybe here, and like right there. But it's all really just honestly one big list of things that you put in sentence order. I mean, I'd like you to categorize things, maybe its effect on the economy, or and then those kinds of like big ideas that you're grouping. And then please do not tell the story of a possible apocalypse in narrative style. And don't just be like, we got no books. What happens? Fahrenheit 451, baby. Burning books. Nobody's got college. Very well could be the effects, but don't just give me the plot of something you've seen, which basically goes through the same ideas. There is a sample essay. And I like this sample essay. It's one of my favorite ones that I read because I feel like the narrative essay was a kid who, I'm not saying that most people aren't smart, but this kid was smarter than me. I'm not saying that I'm smarter than you. I was really good at school. It's just I'm natural at school. It was one of it was my good thing. So when I first semester wrote all of my own essays and gave the students sample essays that were me, I think I just see them. They was staring at them, and I was reading them to them, and they were going, "What is this?" And when I went and evaluated it, it said I was writing like a 13th grade reading level. And I was like, that's really not fair. I was like, I need to have sample essays that are real students so people can read them and feel like I could do this. This is something I might actually end up doing if I sat down 4 hours before it's due and started writing. That's kind of what I wanted people to feel like, is this is possible. Instead of like, oh, okay, I got to sound like a freaking college professor. This like pisses me off because I don't even know what this word is. And like I shouldn't have to look things up to understand it. So I tried to provide like an essay that I thought this is possible. Like this sounds like an essay I might write. So that's kind of like why I like to include it. It sounds very real, very like yes. I don't know. Tell me if you feel the same way. So once upon a time, the major cause topic, what's the major cause and what are some possible solutions, included obesity, childhood obesity. And said, like, what would you think is the major cause of childhood obesity? Formulate some specific solutions. And so this was her approach. She said, a growing epidemic in the United States is childhood obesity. If left unmanaged, it will create severe health problems that will follow the child into adulthood. Not only is childhood obesity a health concern, but can also create issues with the child's self-image and the way other children perceive that child. Obesity in children can lead to that child being a victim of bullying, which is another major concern in today's society. Obesity is a preventable disease. There are several factors that can cause childhood obesity, but one stands out the most: lack of parental guidance. Parents are simply too busy for their children. Children lacking the parental emotional support will turn to something else to fill that void, such as food. And of course, you may disagree from the outset, but remember, it's her burden of proof to try to prove that to you, and then so remember this topic, the major cause, and then formulate up some specific solutions. So has she pointed out the major cause in the introduction? And what is that?
The growing epidemic of obesity in childhood.
What was it again?
Lack of parental guidance.
Okay.
Yeah. I missed what you said to Caleb, but you sound like you don't feel like you said the right thing. Which I feel like too when I read out loud it can be pretty boring. So it also it's hard. It's easy to like read it and but like right here at the end we got her thesis. Kind of says there are several factors that can cause childhood obesity, but one stands out the most: lack of parental guidance. Parents are simply too busy for their children, so that's her adding clarification to that idea. And she says children lacking the parental emotional support will turn to something else to fill that void, such as food. So she does provide a little bit of kind of explanation after her thesis pops up, but that's basically her thesis right there, where she says several factors can cause child obesity. One stands out the most: lack of parental guidance. And in this particular essay, I don't think that you necessarily have to name all those solutions in the thesis. You're pointing out what the major cause is. Maybe you want to imply that there are some solutions, there are ways to fix this, but she didn't. I don't necessarily think that you have to. Now, what did she do before that? What did she mostly talk about here? Well, it's something I told you don't have to do in this essay. Yeah, on topic 2, you don't have to do effects. But she uses that as an introduction strategy. Like the effects of childhood obesity, it's a growing problem. So there are several factors that cause it, and then I think the implication is that later she's going to address how to fix it. So from this point, I would expect that you would explain to me, because I'm like, lack of parental guidance. How do you know that? Prove that to me. So she takes that upon herself to prove to me that is the major cause. I don't need multiple paragraphs talking to me about things that aren't the causes. I just need one paragraph that really shows me that that's the cause. We live in a world where both parents usually work outside the home. The morning ritual of getting kids ready for school and parents getting ready for work consists of quick sugary cereals and Pop-Tarts. My daughter had a Pop-Tart this morning. Parents no longer take the time to cook a well-balanced meal in the morning while the family sits down at the breakfast table. No. Have you ever seen the movie Pleasantville? Have you ever seen the movie Pleasantville where like the mom makes like a stack of pancakes and eggs and bacon for everybody like before school? I was just like, what utopia is this? Everyone is always in a rush to start their day. Fast food places like McDonald's and Taco Bell provide the parent with a quick way to feed their children while on the way to their obligations such as Girl Scouts. Huh? They got breakfast burritos now. They're really good.
Yeah.
They got bacon. They got sausage. They got potato and pico de gallo on a egg burrito. It's been phenomenal. It's so good. Like, it's really good. You're like, sausage, bacon, a little bit better. Potato burrito. Oh my gosh. It's delicious.
They have breakfast crunch wraps too.
Yeah.
Breakfast crunch. Oh, I'm sold on Taco Bell for breakfast. Dinner is spent either in front of the TV or in the car eating out of a fast food bag. Very common if you're in like sports or some kind of after school activity. Parents have packed many activities in their children's lives but have failed to meet their basic emotional and nutritional needs. Y'all don't watch Big Brother, but I was really sad the other night. I was listening to this girl on Big Brother, and she was talking about how her whole time from the time she was 5, her parents put her in gymnastics and were like, this is how you're going to pay your way through college. And she was like 5. And so like she ended up being gymnastics all the way to 17, said, I can't take it anymore, I'm out. And she said finally she felt free and she could pursue what she wanted to pursue. Granted, now she's a fitness model, so she didn't really go that far in the other direction. But I think she ended up switching to track and ended up breaking records in pole vaulting at her school. So she just transferred to something that she found more enjoyable, and it was like, but her parents, like, they were putting all these activities for her, but never met her basic emotional needs. And some people can respond to that by getting harder into gymnastics. Some people might just, eat their feelings, So she's saying in this case, who would eat their feelings, I guess. Many activities that fail to meet their basic emotional and nutritional. For lunch, most parents rely on the school cafeteria to provide the nutritional needs to their child. Absolutely correct in my childhood. There, the children only have 30 minutes to get to the lunch line, sit down, eat, go back outside. For me, it was go back to class. This is usually the only sit-down meal the child will have throughout the day. School lunch is also lacking in nutritional value. School nutritionists have only recently begun to try to change the school menus to provide the children with healthy alternatives. However, this is still a work in progress. They've done a little bit better job, but still, school cafeteria food is still school cafeteria food. You're still eating cardboard pizza with corn. Right? Because that made sense. Here, kids, here's your pizza and a big old scoop of corn. I've always thought it'd be fun to go to Pizza Hut and be like, yeah, I'd like a large stuffed crust, double supreme. Could you throw like a bowl of corn in there? And be like, what? I was like, I don't know. It feels nostalgic. Make sure it's canned corn too, not the good kind. Like the stuff that's cheaper than Great Value, give me that. Like,
Have you got that imitation butter?
Yeah, it was like, do you even fake corn? That would be even better. Like if somebody's manufactured it. Without having to actually grow corn.
Was it dehydrated?
I don't even know. I feel like, though, I get a good sense, maybe you do, that because she kind of approaches it from, here's every meal in the day that parents provide, and goes through every one of those meals and how, man, every single one of them sort of gets sidestepped, at least in busy families. And maybe it worked for me more because I was part of one of those. But I think she hits both families that are, middle class, that can afford to put their kids in stuff like activities and drive around and stuff, but also, hits people who aren't middle class and maybe lower middle class who are having to use things like school lunches, like I had to rely on when I was a kid. And so it hits kind of, and granted, are we really going to see people from the upper one? Not really. So that's not one you have to worry about most time when you're reading an essay. Do I really have to appeal as like, I didn't get my caviar that day? Not really. Like the girl on Breakfast Club who brings a bento box with sushi for lunch. I was like, who are these people? How does that even happen? Sushi's pretty good, I've realized as an adult. I think I first had it when I was 31. Like normal people should. Anyway, no, I'm kidding. You can eat sushi whenever. It's fine. The first time I had sushi was at the Chinese buffet over here. The very first time I ever had it.
Have you ever been?
I'm afraid to eat any more sushi because if I eat good sushi, I won't like that anymore.
Oh, okay.
And that's cheap.
Never
I can eat as much as I want. Just give me some avocado and cream cheese and a little bit of fish. I'm fine. Philadelphia roll. What?
Talking about spring rolls, California rolls.
Philadelphia roll is what they usually call them. Because the California, for some reason, I don't like it. There's something wrong with them. I don't know. Something crunchy, I think. Here we go. So, she immediately gets into solutions. She's like, how do we fix this? And that's what I want. I want you to just jump right into solutions. After I get the cause. If you've explained it well, I don't need you to give me more causes. One is good. It's the major cause. But here's something people don't do on this topic. Is they often don't think, are my solutions actually fixing that cause? People give me a school shooting paper and say, the biggest problem is mental health. Okay, well, what's the solution? Metal detectors, more security. Well,
That's not a solution to mental health.
yeah, like that's not fixing students' mental health. That's not at all addressing that. If you want to say the major cause is security, then give me those security reasons. That's fine. But do not make sure that your major cause and your solutions make sense together. You're like, well, we can't fix mental health, so here's some security stuff. Let's see. There are several ways to remedy this growing problem of childhood obesity. First, educate the parents on the importance of a well-balanced meal. Implement several programs to their child's school, such as food rave night. I'm like, what is that? Hopefully she explains. Bring the child to the school with the parents and set up several cooking stations, okay? Much like a cooking class, but involve the children. Explain the importance and nutritional value of the item they will be cooking. Make it a fun experience for both parent and child. Most parents are so busy sending their children to sports practices and ballet, they fail to realize that spending one-on-one time with their child, learning something together, could be more beneficial to their child than grabbing a burger to go. A little repetitive with the word the child. Parents also tend to buy potato chips and quick snacks to stock their pantry. They don't realize that buying a bag of oranges is just as easy and quick, but not as cheap, as grabbing a bag of potato chips is much healthier. Actually, chips have gotten kind of expensive. So, I mean, I was kind of telling people, like, hey, buying a bag of oranges, I feel like that's a suggestion. I want solutions, not suggestions. So don't say, hey, parents should buy oranges, because they're just not going to do that. That's not going to fix the problem. But if schools implement something like this, which is that food rave night where everybody comes and cooks together, granted, I don't think it's going to be a solution for parents who are working all the time. But she's talking more about these parents who are, able to take their kids out to activities. They just stop and they get, so maybe on one of those off nights they have, a night where there are no sports. They have a night where they can come cook together. And I was like, that's a very innovative solution. And I felt like that was why she got kind of extra points for that. And I really like the originality of it. Instead of her just saying, parents should buy better food for their children and not go to fast food. Like, I mean, that's not going to fix it. If I tell you, imagine like you hear nurses all the time are like, you need to quit smoking. And then the nurse will go outside and smoke.
Yeah.
So the solutions we have for not smoking, they don't work. I mean, probably the person coming and being like, hey, don't smoke, they smell like smoke. So, I mean, how's that going to help? But there's got to be some actual solution that stops smoking, not just saying, you quit that. Because it's not even working for the person who's saying it. And so one of the ways they've actually gotten rid of smoking is that not advertising it on television, because children watch television. It's actually worked. But you still see truth advertisements.
But you
Yeah.
still,
Truth.
They stop it from that to beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do still like.
Reality is that parents have lost touch with their children, and in doing so have created problems for them. Urging parents to listen to their children, no, I don't like that. That's a suggestion. And even just taking 30 minutes an hour a day to spend quality time with their child would help that child feel more secure and less likely to binge on junk food. Stocking their food sources with healthy items and taking the time to cook would cut down on the need to swing by fast food places. Again, I feel like these are more like suggestions. If time is an issue, parents could take a few hours on a Sunday to cook several meals and freeze them. On weeknights, thaw them out and sit at the dinner table to eat. Now, that's innovative enough and creative enough that I think that even though it's more of a suggestion, I'll kind of count that in the good idea category.
I like that.
Well, aren't
It's some people call it like Meal Prep Sunday or whatever. Yeah.
It actually works quite well.
It's a big thing right now. That should have been one of my topics for number one. What makes Meal Prep Sunday so popular? But then y'all would have just said this essay.
Can we borrow?
Family dinner time around the table is like a small timeout during the busy day. It's a time where the family can simply enjoy each other's company. We really honestly don't do that enough anymore. So the goodness of those two big suggestions, which was like food rave night and then also the cooking the meals on Sunday and freezing them, I thought that those were innovative enough. She spent the whole rest of the paper talking about solutions. She gave me the major cause, which is lack of parental guidance. And then both of her solutions involve parents guiding the children differently than they did before. Instead of just taking them to the fast food and giving them fast food, spending time with the children more, involving the cooking. I mean, that both of those were solutions that address the cause. So I liked that. Then she gave me a conclusion that sort of closed out quickly. Several simple ways to subside this trend of childhood obesity. Parents need to take the time to educate themselves and their children the importance of their health and what it can mean for the future. Parental support to create a healthy diet and exercise plan is the key to success in overcoming childhood obesity. I think she felt like she said most of what she had to say, so there wasn't a whole lot left to do. And she covered the solutions, so why mention them all again in the conclusion? And they were very specific, so there's no real keywords she can go to. I mean, food rave night might not make sense to somebody just reading a conclusion. So, but 722 words, and this is I've recently changed the limit to 750 because everybody who wrote that before it was like 700 or 650 or something. Everybody, they all sucked, and people were just not giving me enough. So I was tired of not getting enough on the papers, and so I just want y'all to give me enough. Next week we'll start talking about. We might finish up the arrangement talk as we talk about cause effect, but I may start cause effect and go back to arrangement, and then come back to cause effect. We covered most of the arrangement stuff, so I think you can still take the quiz on Sunday. Because did I ever tell y'all I moved the quiz that was due on 9/9 to 9/16?
Oh.
No.
I'm confused.
What?
What? I thought
There was a reading quiz due on 9/9, but I extended that to 9/16.
Oh my god, that's so great.
Can I retake it?
Oh yeah. And if you had the book next
one
to
we took
oh,
last weekend, huh?
by the way, one more thing. Textbook store person wanted me to let everybody know the textbooks are in. If you prepaid, they're in. If you didn't prepay, you still got extra copies. So those can be bought now. And I also want you to let you know that means I know that. So you come to me on Wednesday next week, you're like, they were out of textbooks. I just got my final. What? Come on. Now you can tell me that they've since sold out since you've tried, and I would understand.
Yeah, we got one.
Yeah, I got you.